Today we're going to answer a few questions about anxiety and the stigma that appears to be tied to it. We're going to talk about where the stigma comes from, maybe even why it's there, how long has it been there, is it still there, and even maybe what we can do to help change things. Stick around. It's a good one. Hello there. My name is Dee, and this is Easing Anxiety. If you like what we do, please subscribe and click on the notifications button so you can be alerted when new videos are available. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to dive right into our topic. No long intro, no delay here. We've done enough of that in the past. That's what our new vlog format is for. So if you want to hear me ramble on and talk about different things and comments and things that are going on with the channel, tune into one of those. This is an informational video, and we're going to get right to our topic. Let's take our first question. Are people with anxiety discriminated against? Well, let's look at this one objectively first. Let's face it, everyone is discriminated against for some reason or another. In fact, everyone is discriminated against for many reasons. It's part of being human. Whether it's your race, your nationality, your culture, your religion, your hair color, your eye color, your skin color, the fact that you like musicals or like, Disney like me, or it doesn't matter. There's 1,000,001 different reasons why we discriminate against other people. So why should we be any different? Yeah, people with anxiety are discriminated against. Maybe even more so than many others. I dare say that we're in the top 10. Why are people with anxiety discriminated against? Quite simply, we're seen as weak. Weak of spirit, weak of will, weak of discipline, weak of everything. People with anxiety are often seen as weak. We let our fear, I'm not saying this is intentional, but we tend to let our fear stop us from doing things, stop us from taking action, taking certain actions that others may deem as brave, courageous. Are they right? Is anxiety a weakness? It depends on who you ask. Some people are going to tell you that anxiety is weakness of character. I've heard it. Many of you may have heard it. People throughout all the history of humankind have heard it. It's quite common. Is it true? No. But it's not really for me to decide. Whether you see anxiety as weakness or not, that's up to the individual person, the person doing the judging of us or of other people. I've heard, and I'm sure many of you have heard too, people tell us, well, suck it up, or just take it, or just get over it. Get over it's a good one. Or just do it, or so many different sayings that we hear all the time. And my response to them, if I responded to them, which I often don't, and sometimes my anxiety prevents me from doing that, is don't you think I would if I could? I mean, anxiety gets in the way of us doing so many amazing things in life. I think it would be pretty cool to jump out of a plane and skydive. I'll never do it. I have a fear of heights. That's part of my anxiety. But wouldn't it be awesome? I'd love to travel the world. But my anxiety keeps me from doing a lot of that. I'm trying to do as much as I can, and I'm still hoping to get out there and see a lot more. But I struggle, and it's not always easy. And if you're traveling and you're always fighting with your anxiety and stressed, is it really a vacation? Some of you suffer from agoraphobia or other social phobias, and I had a little bit of that during my withdrawal from anti-anxiety drugs, and boy, that's a big one. I mean, afraid to be in groups of people, or even sometimes one-on-one communications. People spend their entire lives sometimes in their apartments or homes because they're afraid of being around people. It's so limiting and it's so hard. The real disconnect here is in the level of difficulty it is for some people to release their anxiety than it is for others, to deal with their anxiety, to handle it, to manage it. For some of us, it's extremely hard. It's chronic. In fact, some of us rarely have a quiet moment without anxiety. It's just how we're wired. It's not our fault. It's just how we were built, or reactions that our bodies have made physiologically and psychologically based on events in our lives. For other people, they don't have this problem and they don't understand. And I get that. I'm not judging anybody or blaming anyone. I have an active brain. It's working all the time, even when I don't want to. In fact, many times I don't want it to, but it's always running. It's always looking for something. Unfortunately, my brain often seems to be attracted to negative thoughts, bad things, worrying about what might happen or what might have happened in the past or in the future. It's not great at being in the now. I've made progress on this during my withdrawal from benzos and all the extreme anxiety I went through. I made progress, and I'm better at being in the now, but I am far from perfect, and I only achieve it now and then. But it's a good goal to have. But for those of us with anxiety, we spend a lot of our time worrying about what happened or what will happen. We spend a lot of our lives in the past and in the future. And it's not a great way to live. But it's who we are, and it's how we're wired, and we have to learn to make the most of it. But as for weakness, no. Anxiety is far from a weakness. In fact, I dare say it's the opposite. Those of us who have dealt with anxiety and had to learn to handle this life and handle our anxiety and handle the complications that goes along with it, I dare say most of us are pretty brave, because we've been forced to deal with something that those of us who may criticize us or doubt us have no idea what it's like. So no, anxiety is anything but a weakness. Is treating people with anxiety as weak, is that new? Is that recent? No. Treating people with anxiety as having weakness of character has been around for a long, long time. Perfect example is to take a look at the military. During World War II, Army deserters were put to death. It didn't matter why they deserted. If it was based on chronic anxiety or some other condition, they were not effective soldiers. In fact, British generals stated in reputable medical journals that men who panic during combat should be sterilized. Quote, because only such a measure would prevent men from showing fear and passing on to another generation their mental weakness. And it's no different in the U.S. General Patton wanted war neurosis, also known as combat exhaustion or PTSD these days, to be punishable by death. He claimed it was a mere problem of the will. And this view, as many of us know, is not isolated to the military in any way, shape, or form. People in all walks of life with anxiety are treated poorly. We are often shamed, shunned, excluded, left behind, avoided, because we can't keep up, or we can't do something, or we're just treated as if we don't matter. And the truth is, anxiety and weakness have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Few would call the most decorated Olympian of all time weak. And yet, Michael Phelps has dealt with severe anxiety and depression for years. Following the 2012 Olympics in London, he said, quote, I didn't want to be in the sport anymore. I didn't want to be alive anymore. Phelps stayed in his room for almost 5 days, barely sleeping or eating. His anxiety and depression were so severe. In our books, movies, TV, media, video games, you name it, we celebrate the brave, quotes, the brave one, the one who stands up against all odds, faces off, and rescues civilization from destruction. We see it in our comic books everywhere. But we never celebrate those who are brave inside. Those who are dealing with their own demons inside and have made such progress. But progress that few other people have seen. Still, the tide is turning. Some celebrities and even a few royals have come out, admitted their struggles with anxiety, and have brought this conversation to the forefront. Is there any upside to anxiety? Yes, there is. I'm so glad this question was I asked it, but I'm so glad that I asked this question so that we could talk about it for a minute. But yes, there are benefits to anxiety. Almost any condition we have has good and bad. Sometimes the bad outweighs the good heavily, sometimes not. But there's always positives with everything that happens in life. Anxiety is no different. People who worry a lot have a high level of activity in a part of the brain that responds to danger and threats. So, that being said, we're going to avoid situations where there might be harm to ourselves, maybe to our family, maybe to our friends, maybe to other people. But we're going to avoid certain situations. Now, most of the time, that keeps us from doing things that we may have wanted to do, and that may have been completely safe. But every now and then, it may have kept us out of danger. A perfect example is I have a fear of heights. I've mentioned that to you before. And when I'm at the rim of the Grand Canyon looking over at the beauty that has been created there, I'm going to stay, a good 5-10 feet away from the rim, from the edge. I'm not going to be the one leaning over the rock with my camera taking a selfie as I'm trying to get just the right picture of me being close to that edge, because yeah, that rock's holding you now, but it may not. And when that rock does give way, I'm not going to be the one falling 1,000 feet, bouncing off the rock and landing in the Colorado River. So anxiety does work. It does keep us safe. It just seems to do it a little too much and too often. And it becomes extreme, and it becomes hard to live with the constant fear that so many of us have to live with. Are there any other benefits to anxiety? Yes. Yes, there are. I'm so glad that I've asked this question. But there are other benefits. There have been some studies that have shown that people who are chronically anxious often have higher levels of intelligence and creativity. I'm not making this up. It's there. Most people who suffer from chronic anxiety are overthinkers. Way too much. We can't turn our brain off. But that constant thinking also is very creative. In fact, we come up with not only creative things for the world or for work or for our family or for our friends or for home or for whatever, but we often come up with creative ways to manage our anxiety. That's what gets us through. We adapt. Human beings are wonderful at adapting to things that life throws at us. We have anxiety. We have had to adapt to that and learn how to live with it. But this intelligence and this creativity that often seems to be attributed to people with anxiety is a great benefit too. It's an asset. One of the greatest poets of the 19th century, Emily Dickinson, suffered from severe anxiety and was even housebound for a time. Her suffering fed her creativity. She rarely left her bedroom after she turned the age of 40. Darwin was also housebound by his anxiety for decades, and would probably never have been able to finish his work on evolution if it wasn't for this disability. Sir Isaac Newton invented calculus, which no one knew about for 10 years because he was too agoraphobic to leave his home. It's crazy. Michelangelo suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder. Vincent van Gogh, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Nikola Tesla, even Abraham Lincoln has battled anxiety. And pop culture is no different. Celebrities who have publicly admitted that they struggle with anxiety include Drew Barrymore, David Beckham, Kristen Bell, Sheryl Crow, Miley Cyrus, Paula Deen, Johnny Depp, Whoopi Goldberg, Anthony Hopkins, Demi Lovato, John Mayer, Marilyn Monroe, Bonnie Raitt, Mickey Rourke, Sarah Silverman, Oprah Winfrey. All these people have dealt with anxiety or anxiety-related disorders. It's not a bad list. In fact, it's a list of some of the most creative and talented people in the world. We're in good company. That's something to keep in mind. But don't you wish people were more sensitive to your situation? Yeah, of course. I mean, God, we all wish at times that other people were more sensitive to our sensitivities. I mean, anxiety, people who suffer from anxiety have extreme sensitivities to different things. We have different triggers. And yeah, it'd be nice if people got me and understood me. I'd love that. Who wouldn't? I mean, let's face it. If I really looked deep within myself and was completely honest, I'd have to admit that I'm probably equally as insensitive to their problems as they are to mine. It's, again, part of being human. But it would be nice if we could make some progress. It'd be nice if anxiety was treated like any other medical condition. If somebody has cancer, everybody rallies around and says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you have that, and this is debilitating, and what can we do to help?" If somebody gets Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, we know that, we understand that. But when it comes to mental health, it's invisible. We don't see mental health as much as we do the physical symptoms. In fact, most of us have gotten so used to dealing with it and even covering it up. Most people around us don't even know we have it. We've gotten good at this. I know I have over the years. And we found ways to cover. Yeah, I mean, I wish people were a little more aware of my sensitivities, but I'm not looking to change the world. I'd rather find ways to manage my anxiety and still have the world out there to go and enjoy. I want to go out there and travel the world and do all kinds of things. And sure, it'd be nice if there were some accommodations made along the way that might make it a little easier, but I don't want any major changes. The world's pretty cool. I just want to go out and enjoy it. And to do that, I got to work on myself. I got to find ways to manage this condition. It's what I have. And I'm the only one that can really make this change. You know, there's a saying that I love that I used in my book and I've used many times over. It's by Shantideva. And this one I think is really appropriate for those of us who deal with chronic conditions such as long-term anxiety. He said the following: "Where is there enough leather to cover the surface of the earth? But just having leather on the soles of one's feet is the same as covering the whole earth." I love that one. I think most of you probably got that, but I'm going to elaborate anyway. For me, basically what Shantideva is saying here is that we can attempt to change the entire world to fit us, our sensitivities and our needs. Or we can make some changes to ourselves so we can better adapt to the world. As for me, I'm going to be cutting leather and making shoes. That's all well and good, but shouldn't we make some changes to the world so people with anxiety aren't treated this way? Yeah, we should, and we can. My answer to the last question was not at all saying that we should just stand by and let people with anxiety be treated as we are being treated. The history's not good, and neither is the future unless we make a few changes. But I'm also a big believer in, and this is just me, in making changes from a place of love, compassion, and understanding, and not from anger, resentment, or vengeance. The best way we can change the world is to help people understand what we're going through, and equally so, this is the hard part, understand what they're going through too. That's what makes a change in the world. That's my soapbox. I'm just saying it here. You may agree with me, you may disagree, but I don't believe that real beneficial change for the world comes from a place of anger, resentment, or hate. I think the best place to start is into helping people understand what we go through. We so often hide our anxiety out of shame, out of fear for being discriminated against, mistreated, whatever, or passed over for a job. It doesn't matter. And I'm one of those people. I've been that way for a long, long time. But I can tell you that since I went through my deal with benzodiazepine dependence and came out the other side and started to find a different way to live, I started being more honest and open with people. I mean, here I am talking about my anxiety on a video and putting it up on YouTube for the whole world to see. And I do that with the podcast too. But it's not because I'm brave. It's because I decided to take a chance and try it. And as I've done it, I would say 99% of the feedback has been positive. Either from people who also struggle with what I'm going through, which is a huge gain. Being able to talk with other people who deal with what you deal with is amazing and so supportive. But also with people who had no idea. Had no idea. And that's probably the majority of the people out there. Very few of us truly understand what another person goes through. And yet we could be so quick to judge. But the only way to truly understand someone else is to ask them. And when asked about why you're not doing this or what's going on, it's good to come up with that courage and say, because I struggle with anxiety. It's a condition I've had for a long time, and I do my best to manage it, but sometimes it gets the better of me. I'll continue to try to improve and find better ways of managing it. But I also really appreciate your understanding and patience. I'm doing the best I can. So, yeah. I mean, there are some places where it's probably not good to talk about your anxiety all the time. At work, job interviews, maybe you want to hold back some. You also don't want to bring it up in conversation all the time. We don't want to bore the hell out of people and always feel like there's a need to share experiences. But when we're asked, when somebody actually sincerely says, hey, what are you dealing with? What's going on? It's a great time to talk about it. And there's other ways too, because let's use that creativity and intelligence that we have. We can express ourselves and what we're going through in so many different fashions. We can do it through music, or through verse and poetry, through sculpting, through art, through journalism, if that's your expertise, through advertising, through, I'm doing it through a podcast and YouTube videos. Do your own video, wherever you want. If you have a passion and you like that kind of stuff, hey, get out there and express yourself and say, I want to help you understand what's going on. That's really all we're doing here, is helping people understand us better, and in the process, understanding them better too. This is how things actually get done for the good. But yeah, it's hard. Anxiety is a stigma that is tied to a perception that we're less than others. And it doesn't feel good. Thanks. Take care. Be well. And be at peace. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching our video today, and please check out our other videos while you're here and subscribe to our channel if you get a chance. I really appreciate your feedback, and I'm so glad you stopped by today.